Kia ora everyone. We're here doing another video looking at the arcade window class. Now, we should have a good understanding after the last few videos about Python classes. We've looked about how to make them, how to define them, how to inherit from other classes and those sort of hierarchy trees that we've talked about. We've talked about how to give them properties, how to give them methods, how to make instances of a class, and how to make an object out of a class, and also how to call those methods and properties using the dot syntax. So there's an awful lot that we've covered already with classes. And now we're going to get into one specific one that we're actually going to need to make our games in arcade, and that is the arcade window class. A lot of the useful stuff, the good stuff, the guts of the arcade window, the arcade library lives in that window class. So if you're trying to make any sort of decent game, you're going to want to use it and understand how it works. And this sort of moves away from general Python classes stuff and more into specific using the arcade library. Even though if you're making games, if you're making animations, some of this stuff holds true across the board, like using an object.update.draw method and having that sort of logic in there. This is starting to get a little bit specific to the arcade library. Okay, we have here a sketch that we've drawn up over the last couple of videos, and it's getting quite long. I don't want to have it bloat. You know, it's got squares bouncing around, it's got balls bouncing around. I really don't want to have it bloat up. So we're just going to simplify it a little bit, delete a little bit of that code. Let's get rid of our squares. We don't need our squares for today. We don't need to get to make any squares, of course. Just tidy that up. We don't need Simon anymore. Simon can go. Okay, we actually won't need this arcade.window, so that can go today as well. We don't need schedule anymore. That can disappear. And we won't need the shapes. What am I trying to say? Array, list. We won't need the shapes list. We don't need Simon.update or Simon.draw. Okay. Here's what we're trying to do. We are trying to get a user input. That's going to be in our next video, but to get there, we need to understand the arcade window class. And if we make one at the moment, if we just say arcade.window, we can take a look. Maybe window is going to equal arcade.window. We can take a look at some of the things that it has in here. Ooh, that's a bit different. Should be a class. Here we go. The window class forms the basis of most advanced games that use arcade. It represents the window on the screen, and it manages events. So every time you move the mouse, click the mouse, press a button, all of those things are events that we want to handle in our code somehow. And the really cool thing about arcade is that it's already got a lot of internal logic handling that for you. You don't have to go and remake everything. You just have to say, here's what I want to have happen in order to play my game. When this event happens, you know, when I push up, I want my character to jump. When I push right arrow, I want my character to move left. But in order to do that, we have to overwrite the methods of the window class in arcade. How do we do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to extend that class with a class of our own, and then we're going to overwrite those pre-existing methods, and we're going to have control over them ourselves. Great, excellent, let's do it. Let's make a new class. Let's call it game. And what's its parent going to be? It's going to be arcade dot window. Cool. Now, we need to overwrite the Python arcade window init function. So we need to have our own initialize function. So we need to define our own underscore init, and don't be tempted to hit enter. If you hit enter right now, you'll be incredibly worried about what pops up. Whoa, okay, don't want all of that. Just want the basics, thank you. And our init function needs a width, it needs a height, and it needs a title. And those are all the things we're going to pass it. Now, how do we get this initialization function to call the initialization function in arcade.window? We can call super. What is super? Super is arcade.window. So super is going to say, okay, what's my parent? And then I'm going to call an instance of that parent. I'm going to now make an arcade.window if I call dunderscore init. Oops, dunderscore init dunder, of course. Double under. And let's call that with a width. I've forgotten something. See if you can spot the thing I've forgotten. 10 internet points to anyone who can spot that I didn't put self in there. That would have caused some problems. Okay. It's still complaining at me. What have I done wrong? Nothing so far, I believe. Maybe, possibly. No, if VS Code says you've done something wrong, you've done something wrong. And you need to fix it. Okay, so why have we done this? We've done this so that we can add a few extra properties of our own making into our game class. And what are those things? Those things are going to be self.shapes. And that's going to equal an empty array. And then we're going to, here we are going to set the background color. So we're going to bring that line of code up. And we're going to make these balls here as well. So we're going to make those balls. We're going to put them in not shapes.append, but self.shapes.append, because we have self.shapes here. Let's run it. Let's see if we can find the error here. Perhaps I need self here as well. Does that sound correct? That does not sound correct to me. Okay, pausing, checking the checking the docs. This is what I've got, team. Arcade.window. Call the parent superclass in function. Yeah, that's what I've got. I've missed a full stop. Of course, we're calling a method. I missed a full stop in there. Everyone needs the reference occasionally to figure out where they've gone wrong. Never be ashamed of checking the reference. Okay. Great. Now this should be working. Let's see if this is going to run without any errors. No, it's not, because it doesn't know what shapes is at the moment. We've got this onDraw function, but we are never actually we're never actually calling it anymore because we got rid of that arcade.schedule. That's gone, and it's also got shapes in here, and we don't have a shapes array anymore. We have a self.shapes.array up here where my arm is disappearing. So what do we need to do? We need to turn this onDraw function into a method of the game class. How do we do that? It's simpler than you might think. Grab that, hit tab, and put a self in here. Oh. Great. Now, so we've got our game class. That's good enough for now. Let's now actually make one, because we've got our cookie cutter. We don't actually have a cookie yet, so let's cut a cookie with our cookie cutter like this. Let's go window is going to equal game, so a new game, and it's going to be width, wide, height, high, and title, titled. And don't forget, those are declared right at the top. We've still got those there in global scope. Game is not defined. I believe you'll find that game is defined. Will that disappear if I save it? No. Oops, that's not inside my for loop. That'll help. And all the other errors disappeared. Type error. Problem in line 34. Must be a real number, not game. I think we do not put self in there. My mistake. The onDraw was dispatched with 0 arguments, but your handler accepts only 2 arguments. This is a problem as well. Self dot here, and what does onDraw need? Still don't quite have onDraw correct. Perhaps we do not need delta time anymore, but I don't believe that's the fix. Oh, that is the fix. Don't need delta time anymore. So I was right about the error. I was wrong about it not being the error. But hey, we now have a ball bouncing around the screen. Only the one. Why is that? Why don't we have many, at least 5 of them? Self.shapes.append b, because that is not in the for loop either. We only appended the last one. There we go. That's much better. Cool. So that's the same thing. That's no change. Why? Why did we go through all of that trouble? Well, in the next video, we're going to look at user input, actually starting to use the arrow keys to change things in our game in a really sort of simplistic way. You know, we're not about to get a character out yet, but we are headed there very soon. All right, so next video, we will see you there, and we will look at user input. Ka kite.